Hi, I'm Harjo, and I'll be doing the lobes and cerebral hemispheres of the brain. Start off with the occipital lobe, which is that little reddish, little short, small area that's like reddish pinkish, and it's one of the four major lobes in the cerebral cortex, which I'll explain, and is located above the cerebellum, which is a little purplish area towards the brainstem. And the occipital lobe is the visual processing center, and that allows us to see what we see through our eyes, and it portrays images that we see in our eyes. And if this gets damaged, we won't be able to see correctly. And color blindness also has to do with the occipital lobe as well. Next is a parietal lobe, which is located one lobe to the left, which is indicated in the yellowish, mangoish colored area. And that is responsible for comprehension and understanding things, and it also helps us involve sensation. And this tells us our directions like left and right. The next lobe is the temporal lobe, which is located right underneath that in the little greenish area right underneath the parietal lobe. And that is responsible for understanding language, and it involves our behavior and memory and hearing. And then the biggest one, the frontal lobe, is next to the parietal lobe, which is responsible for creating thoughts. And the frontal lobe is a bigger one, as you guys see. It's the bluish colored one, which is a little bigger. And that is responsible for creating thoughts, problem solving, judgments of things, and attention and physical reactions and smell in our personality and like who we are. And then the corpus callosum is a bond of like nerve fibers that connect the right and left hemispheres of the brain, so it comes together and gives us this little ball looking shape. And that is responsible for communication between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. And so next we got the motor cortex and the somatosensory cortex. The motor cortex, which is on the diagram, is located in the frontal lobe towards the back part to the rear portion of the frontal lobe, which is indicated by the reddish pinkish color right there in the diagram. That is responsible for generating neuron impulses or neural impulses that control the execution of our movements. That when we do move around and do things that we want to do, like when I move my leg, or whenever we walk, or like shake someone's hand. And the somatosensory cortex is located in the parietal lobe because it's a little farther back, as that's indicated by the purplish bluish area. And that's responsible for all sensory input from the body, like neurons that sense feeling in our skin or touch. When we touch something, that is all sent to the somatosensory cortex for processing, which allows this to happen. So next we have like the right and the left hemisphere, which combines to make the whole brain. And then it's kind of the opposite. The left controls the right side of the body, and the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body. So the left is responsible for controlling like tasks like logic and science and mathematics, and then the right is right side of the brain, or the right hemisphere, is responsible for the left side of the body and performs creativities and arts in the body.
I'll be talking about the midbrain. The Broca area, a region of the brain concerned with the production of speech, located in the cortex of the dominant frontal lobe. If there's any damage in this area, it can cause Broca's aphasia, if I pronounce that correctly, characterized by a hesitant and fragmented speech with little grammatical structure. Next, I'd like to be talking about the Wernicke area. It's a region of the brain concerned with comprehension of language, located in the cortex of the dominant temporal lobe. Damage to this area causes Wernicke aphasia. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. Characterized by a superficially fluent grammatical speech, but an inability to use or understand more than the most basic nouns and verbs. And lastly, what I would like to be talking about in the midbrain is spatial or neglect, or unilateral neglect. This is a common syndrome following a stroke, most frequently on the right side of the brain. Such patients fail to be aware of objects or people to the left. For example, when searching through a visual scene, patients with left neglect tend to look at elements on the right only. Boy Jake here. We're talking about the hindbrain. So let me just start off by talking about the medulla. It's the inner region of an organ or tissue, especially when it's distinguishable from a major structure of the hindbrain that is located near the brainstem. This part of the brain is responsible for a number of functions, including motor skills such as balance, coordination, posture, and outer region of cortex, as in the kidney or an adrenal gland or in the hair. Next, I'd like to be talking about pons. This is the part of the brain stem that links the medulla oblongata to the thalamus. Next, I'd like to be talking about reticular formation, and this is a portion of the brain that is located in the central core of the brainstem. It passes through the medulla pons and stops in the midbrain. Its function can be classified into 4 categories: motor control, sensory control, vesical control, and control of consciousness. And finally, I'd like to be talking about the cerebellum. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Sorry. Which basically what it is a major structure of the hindbrain that is located near the brainstem. This is a part of the brain that is responsible for the following functions, including your motor skills, such as balance, coordination, and posture.